This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Presented by GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started here today, I want to make sure I remind you guys, as always, to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. If you could also, as well, please give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. We very appreciate it. I'll see what you guys like, dislike, ways you can improve, all that fun stuff. Also, if you're on social media, we are on social media, so you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Wherever you're at, we're at, so we can talk, you can chat, we can discuss, we can debate, all that fun stuff. And with the NBA season coming towards an end, I mean, obviously, there's still about a month and plus left in the season, so it's not over yet. But with the NBA season starting to wind down a little bit, there's obviously going to be a lot of talk about the different awards, most notably the MVP. And it just so happens that we happen to have the two best teams and the two probably leading MVP candidates playing each other on Friday night in the Bucks and the Lakers. I believe, I'm pretty sure the game, I want to double check here, but I'm pretty sure the game is in LA, which would make sense because it's the 10:30 game on ESPN, if I remember correctly. Yes, it is Bucks at Lakers, 10:30 ESPN. So, I mean, this is a matchup of potential finals matchup, honestly. I mean, you got the best team in the East by a wide margin, the best team in the West by a wide margin, the two best teams in the league by a pretty good margin matching up against each other. And on top of that, you have what will probably end up being the top two vote getters for the MVP award. It's hard to say because maybe LeBron and Anthony Davis might split some votes. But at the very least, Giannis should win, in my opinion. We'll get to that in a second. And LeBron's definitely going to be number 2, lowest number 3, in my opinion. But, speaking of MVP, LeBron came out today and said that he himself does not play for MVPs. He does not strive for that. He strives to be the best. That's what drives him. And, I mean, in fairness, when you're at his age of 35, I believe, he's already won 4 MVPs. So, and understand him not needing the MVP award not driving him. Though, I mean, I don't think he would be opposed to winning it if it was given to him. But at the same time, I don't think it's something that he's actively trying to get. But that doesn't mean people aren't trying to give it to him. And I think that's what a lot of people are viewing this game as, is I think I saw on Twitter earlier this week, if the Lakers go through this week 3-0 because they were playing the Sixers. I think they played them Wednesday. Though, in fairness, the Sixers played none of the good people for the Sixers were playing. Embiid's hurt, Simmons is hurt, and Josh Richardson didn't play. So it's not like they beat a fully healthy Sixers team, but they still beat the Sixers. Not a bad win. But then play the Bucks obviously on Friday, and then I think they play the Clippers Sunday. So this was a 3-game stretch, you could say, to try to prove. I mean, not that they need to prove much because, again, the Lakers have been sensational this year. But just to try to showcase that they're at the top of the league when in terms of the best teams. Like they can compete with anybody. When you have LeBron on your team, it's very hard not to compete with anybody. But this was a good test for them this week just to see exactly where they're at, especially since I think they've lost both games to the Clippers already this season. So beating the Bucks and Clippers back-to-back would have been a good way. Been a very good week, obviously. So, not very many people could say that they've beaten those two teams back-to-back. But people were saying that if they pulled that off, then this maybe would tighten the gap a little bit in the MVP race between LeBron and Giannis. And that is where I draw the line. Because I don't think... That's my thing about these awards, is that I'm very rarely a person that's like, oh, the one-on-one... Well, the winning or losing of a specific game determines who gets an award. Like I know Memphis plays the Grizzlies. Memphis plays the Pelicans 2 more times a season. So I know people are going to be saying like, oh, the winner of those games should win Rookie of the Year, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not exactly how these things go, just because of the fact that, obviously, the games, it's not a one-on-one game. There's 4 other people on the court for each team, so you can't just be like, oh, just compare who had a better game, because somebody may have a better game, but that might not lead to the team winning the game, which is obviously the most important thing at the end of the day. That's why you keep score, is in order to see who wins and loses at the end. So that is what's more important. That's why I'm not really playing into that as much as obviously the Lakers are going to want to try to win this game, as are the Bucks. So, and Giannis and LeBron are going to want to try to play well in this game. I think the last time they played was in Milwaukee, and the Bucks beat them, and I think that was when Giannis kind of symbolized that he had the crown now. Which, I mean, if he wins back-to-back MVP, it's hard to argue against that. But my point was more so that I don't really think there's much LeBron can do to tighten the gap between him and Giannis for the MVP award, barring like the Bucks just like completely collapsing over the last month, which at this point would seem kind of shocking. But I mean, hey, you never know. You really don't know. But just looking at the tail of the tape between these two teams, you got the Bucks, who are obviously have the best record in the league. They are currently 53-9, while the Lakers are 47-33. 47-13. Excuse me, not 33. 47-13. So they're 6 games up in the win column and 4 games up in the loss column. So yeah, a pretty decent sized gap between the two teams. Giannis obviously is averaging more points than LeBron. He's averaging 29.6, shooting 55% from the field, only 63% from the free throw line, which is a problem. He's averaging 13.8 rebounds, and he's only averaging 5.8 assists to LeBron's 10.7. But he's doing this, and this is probably what's the most impressive thing about Giannis this season, is that he's doing all of this in not even 31 minutes a game. Like they have been so dominant this season that he's just been able to. He doesn't even have to play that much, which is the most absurd thing. Like I said, he's averaging 31 minutes a game, where like most top level players probably play closer to like 35, 36 during the regular season, and then obviously bumped it up closer to 40 for the playoffs. So come playoff time, I mean he'll be way, way, way rested compared to a lot of other top elite level players in the league. Even compared to LeBron. I mean, LeBron's he's averaging 35 minutes, almost 4 more minutes a game, which if you extrapolate that out over, he's played 57 games? So that's over 228 more minutes, which if you divide every game is like 48. So he's played at this point in terms of minutes, he's played almost 5 more games than Giannis has. In terms of the time he's been on the court this season, he's played almost the equivalent of 5 games. And yet, and still, even in that, Giannis is still up there for the league lead in scoring. I think, James Harden still has the actual lead, but I mean, he's averaging just about 30 a game. Like I said, already averaging the 14 rebounds, almost 6 assists. He has the best record in the league. They're probably going to get the 1 seed again. They have one of the best point differentials. Well, I know they had it as of a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure exactly where they're at now, but they had a historic point differential. heading into the All-Star break. He's number 1 in PER if you care about those advanced stats. So it's just like, I'm not really sure what LeBron could do to surpass Giannis in terms of the MVP race. Just because the numbers speak for themselves, the record speaks for itself. And in the last game we played against them, he had 34 and 7 assists and hit, like, I think 5 threes. And like I said, he's already beaten the Lakers once this season. If you care about those team matchups. So yeah, it's a good game. Just enjoy the game for what it is. Don't really try to make a point about. I don't really think it's worth trying to make a point about the MVP award based on what does or doesn't happen in this game. Plus, also, like I said, this kind of going to detract from LeBron a little bit is the fact that he plays with Anthony Davis, who leads the team in scoring with 26.6 points, leads the team in rebounding at 9.5. Obviously, LeBron leads the team in assists with almost 11. But Giannis doesn't have a guy like that on his team. Now, Chris Middleton was an All-Star, though. Part of that was probably because of the fact that he's playing on such a good Bucks team. You can't only have one All-Star on the best team in the league. That would be absurd. But at the same time, Chris Middleton is not anywhere close to the level of Anthony Davis in terms of the caliber of player. I mean, you can honestly argue. I mean, no, I wouldn't go as far as to say that Anthony Davis is the best player on the Lakers, but I know there are some people out there that will argue that. So it's hard to imagine winning the MVP award when you're not even the best player, quote unquote, on your own team. And like I said, that's going to hurt LeBron, in my opinion, in the voting, just because him and Anthony Davis are going to split votes as opposed to Giannis. Though obviously Giannis' team is good, and all the people they have around him are playing well in their roles. He doesn't have Anthony Davis. And he's doing all this with a bunch of guys, really. Because, I mean, if you asked anybody, they're not really scared. I mean, even maybe they're not even that scared of Giannis just because of the shooting, the lack of shooting. But, like, who on the Bucks actually scares you? Besides Giannis, Middleton was like hit or miss in the playoffs last year, and most of the rest of the team relies on 3-point shooting. So if they're off, there's not really much you can do. As opposed to Anthony Davis, even if he's not hitting threes, you can still give him the ball in the post. He's still arguably he may very well win the Defensive Player of the Year award. They had even if Anthony Davis is not scoring, there's still a lot of other things he can do as opposed to the second best player for the Bucks. If Chris Middleton isn't scoring, not that he can't play solid defense, but he's not like a lockdown defender. And if he's not scoring, then obviously they have other guys that can pick up the slack a little bit, but he doesn't necessarily have the same impact that Anthony Davis would have on the court. So I am saying that's going to hurt LeBron's case just a tad bit. Though obviously, I mean, he won MVPs with good play. I mean, he won MVPs in Miami when he had D Wade and Chris Bosh around him. So it's not like that's gonna completely hurt him. But I'm saying in this case, I mean, Giannis has led the Bucks front to back this season in terms of they've been the best team and by a good margin. So it would almost be like early onset Giannis fatigue if he doesn't get it this year. And then no knock on LeBron. He's been great. And obviously people weren't sure that he could do this after coming off of the last year with the injury. Though, I mean, he played well when he wasn't hurt. But obviously people thought that, this may be the time where eventually the injuries start to catch up with him. And in this case, it hasn't because he's been relatively healthy for most of the year. So that's been great for him. But yeah, it's just that I don't really think, regardless of the outcome of this game, I mean, unless LeBron goes off for even if LeBron goes off for 60, I really don't think it matters. This game is not going to determine the MVP award one way or the other. I think that's already been, we've seen it play over the first, October to, the first 5 months of the season. We have a month left to go. We have an idea of where these awards are probably headed, again, barring a massive Bucks collapse. it's probably going to be Giannis. But I just thought that was interesting. It's the fact that since they were playing this weekend, I guess this weekend, i.e. tomorrow or today when you guys are listening to this on Friday, people were trying to make this game a referendum on the award. And I was like, it's not that serious, guys. Come on. This game does not determine one way or the other what's going to happen with the MVP. And regardless of that, Giannis has done more than enough to have a stranglehold on the MVP award. And as long as he keeps doing what he's doing and the Bucks keep winning, I don't really see how it goes to anybody else. Personally. And that's, again, no knock on LeBron. He's been great this year. But again, he only leads his own team in in terms of points, rebounds, assists. He only leads the team in one, as opposed to Giannis leads his team in all three. And he's doing this in less minutes and with potentially, depending on how you feel about the team's worst players around him. So, there is that. And obviously, I don't even know if Giannis really cares about the MVP award either, just because at the end of the day, these guys are beholden to their postseason success. So if he has a bad postseason, then the MVP award's not going to matter. But at the same time, I do think he's probably going to end up going back-to-back. Word to Drake. But yeah, so it should be a good game. So if you're not out and about on a Friday night, I would be locked into this game because, like I said, this is arguably the game of the year in terms of, especially at this point in the season, this matchup on prime time. You can't really ask much more if you're a basketball fan. Let me just put it that way. If you're a basketball fan, so this should be a good one. I would be shocked if it's a blowout either way, but hey, you never know. These things can happen, so we shall see how that goes. But yeah, so after this break, we're going to come back and we're going to transition to a different team in the NBA that's maybe starting to find their groove, and if they can be a team that can pull off an upset in the first round of the playoffs. We'll talk about who this team is, who these players are that find their groove, and if I think they could potentially upset their first round matchup, assuming the season ended today. So we'll talk, like I said, we'll talk about all that stuff right after the break. So stay tuned.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And I should have mentioned this at the top of the show, but pardon me, guys, if I sound a little crazy today. I am a wee bit under the weather, but the show does not stop. So, I'm going to still, like I said, pump this out for you guys, but if I sound a little crazy, that is the reason why. So, don't mind me. But back to what we were going to talk about in the segment. The team I'm talking about that is playing a little bit better recently and could potentially be a tough out come playoff time is the Dallas Mavericks. And now, people thought before the season this team could be good. And obviously, they're in the playoff hunt, so it's not that they're doing poorly. And they're 13 games above 500, so again, very good season for them. But the thing that was always going to kind of determine how far they could go was the play Kristaps Porzingis this season, just because Luka needed a number 2 guy, and KP seemed like a good number 2 guy to play off of him, but it seemed like it took him a little bit while to get adjusted to that number 2 role, because obviously when he was with the Knicks, though they didn't really win that many games, he was the number 1 option, clearly. So it takes some adjusting, especially with a guy like Luka, who's a lot of his success and a lot of his playing style lends itself to him having the ball a lot of the time. So it takes some time to get adjusted to that. And I feel like Porzingis is finally starting to hit his groove a little bit. I mean, last night they had a very, very tough, very hard fought, and very important win against the Pelicans in overtime, where KP had 34 and 12 rebounds. I mean, Luka also had a 30-point. I think he also had 30 and. I know he had triple-double. I think he also had 30 and 10. I want to make sure that he hit the triple-double with 30 points. Yes, he did. He had exactly 30, 17, and 10. So I think they said they were the first Mavericks teammates with 30 and 10 since 2008, when I think Dirk and Josh Howard had it. So it goes to show, how little that happens, and 2, how little that's happened for the Mavs. But more so than that, KP's been playing pretty good for the last month plus, you could say. I mean, his last 10 games, he's averaging 27, 11, and 3 with 3 blocks, while shooting 50% from the field and 38% from 3. Now, some of that was with Luka out, so that obviously helps you get those points up. But at the same time, this is the guy that they thought that they could be getting when they traded for him. A guy that is 7'3", can shoot, can score, can block shots, can be a nice little pick and roll, pick and pop kind of guy to go alongside Luka. And like I said, as of the last month or so, he's been playing like that. He could very well be that 1B or that number 2 to Luka. I mean, if you look at the month of February for him, well, if you include last Sunday, so March 1st, he had 38 against the Wolves, 38 and 13. But before that, he's had games of 24, 28, 15, 24, 27, 28, 11, 32, and 38. And then a 35-point game going back to the end of January. So like I said, for the past month or so, he's been really starting to find his groove. Shooting the 3-ball well, as we already talked about. And yeah, I'm saying in blocking a lot of shots, he's averaging he averaged almost 2 blocks a game. In the month of February, he had 5 blocks against the Pelicans and 5 blocks against the Wolves on Sunday. So, you know what I'm saying, if he's going to be a guy that is going to shoot, I mean, he's going to score, is going to stretch the court, is going to rebound, and is going to block shots like that. I mean, there's not much more the Mavs could ask for. There's really not much more. That's basically exactly what they would have wanted when they traded for him. So with that in mind, how far could this team go? And especially depending on who they match up with. I think currently, if you look at the standings here, they are, I know they're the 7 right now. So they're the 7. The Clippers are the 2. That makes me feel less thrilled about this. But they're only a half game back of the Thunder for the 6th, and they're only 2 games back of the 4 seed. So, I mean, not out of the question for them to get the 4 seed, though. I mean, it's probably likely they'll end up around 6 or 7. But in now the realm of possibility. But if they get that 7 seed, they're probably either going to play the Clippers or the Nuggets, depending on who gets that, who ends up getting the higher record between the two. And I think the Clippers would be tough just because they could throw a bunch of different guys at Luka, and that's going to be a problem. Though I think if they played the Clippers, they would probably need, obviously any playoff matchup they have, they're going to need Kristaps to show up and show out, because they can't just rely on Luka to do everything. That's not a recipe for success, in my personal opinion. But especially against the the Clippers because they will go small. Yeah, and obviously KP is 7'3", so he would need to punish them when they did decide to go small. Kind of like the Clippers did to the Rockets tonight. I mean, they ended up only winning by 15. The Clippers did, but I mean, it was a 20, almost 30-point game for a lot of that time. So we can't let that cloud our judgment a little bit because like the Clippers handled the Rockets fairly easily, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that obviously that has been documented on this show and many other shows and on many other platforms, the fact that the Rockets are going small. That's just what they're doing right now to kind of go against the grain in the NBA. But with that, the Clippers kind of just dominate on the inside. I mean, also because we talked about the Knicks win against the Rockets a little bit on the last episode, just as a sidebar to the whole Spike Lee drama. But the biggest thing about that game, and the reason why they end up losing the Rockets, is that they got out-rebounded by 30. 30. And I mean, obviously, the Knicks very famously signed all those power forwards in free agency, so maybe that finally came to fruition. The plan finally came to fruition as what I'm kind of half joking, but you get the point. Is that they have big guys on their team, and when you have little guys against big guys, unless you just have an elite guys that are boxing out, and obviously Russ is a great rebounder for any position, let alone for a point guard. PJ Tucker is savvy in terms of positioning and all that stuff. Covington's not little, so they have guys that can get rebounds. But the thing with that is, when you have guys that are 6'10 plus, having guys that are only 6'6", I mean, there's only so much you can do. Because you're not going to get a perfect box out every time. It's just not possible. So that means you're going to have to, you're going to lose rebound just because you're naturally smaller than people. And I think that's a lot of what happened to the Rockets in the last game. Because, I mean, you don't just getting out rebounded by 30 is an absurd number. And I mean, Covington led their team with 13 rebounds in that game. Russ had 9, and no other person had more than 5 rebounds for the Rockets. Now on the flip side of that, you had Julius Randle who had 16, Taj Gibson who had 10, Mitchell Robinson who had 13, and then 4 other guys that had at least 5, and 2 of them were Elfrid Payton, who's also a good rebounder for a point guard, and R.J. Barrett, who's, again, around the same size as most of the guys that Rockets are playing. So, what you see when you have guys like Julius Randle, who's, he's like, 6'8", 6'9", 6'8", Mitchell Robinson, 7 feet, Taj Gibson's about 6'10", so they have big guys out there, and so and if you're not hitting your shots, they're going to need to get rebounded, and in theory, it's easier to get a rebound if you're a taller guy. So my main point of that story was that that's what the Clippers did in this game. I mean, in the first half, I think Montrezl Harrell and Zubac were a combined 7 for 7. Zubac finished with 6 for 6 on the game, 17 points, 12 rebounds. Montrezl Harrell finished with 19 and 10. I mean, Kawhi did his thing. He had a calm 25. But that's the thing, is that when you have no one in the middle, and I think Chuck made the point of this on the NBA, inside the NBA broadcast, was that there are going to be teams and players that go see the Rockets on their schedule and be like, oh, I can have a good game this game just because of the fact they know they're playing a bunch of small guys with no rim protection. And I think maybe, I don't know if that's what Zubac thought. I mean, that's probably what Harrell thought, but I don't know if that's what Zubac thought. But he knew, I was like, he was switched on to, like, Austin Rivers was guarding him in the post, like, PJ Tucker, Covington, it's like guys that are significantly shorter than him are getting, and he's just shooting over them with ease. And I'm saying that's why the size factor, because the Mavs have, I mean, because the Clippers have some size, I don't think that the Kristaps factor is as big for in that potential matchup. Also, like I said, they have a bunch of guys that can throw at Luka, so that kind of is negates that point. They could throw Kawhi for stretches, PG for stretches, Morris for stretches. Like, they have multiple guys they could throw at Luka to try to frustrate him. So that's not a good matchup. Though, like I said, they would need Kristaps to punish the Harrell matchup when he's in the game, because obviously Zubac is kind of tall, so that's not going to be as easy. But Harrell's is obviously shorter for a guy that plays a lot of time, spends a lot of time at the center position, so he would need to dominate that matchup when he's in and just out muscle him, beat him up in the post, even though KP likes to stay out by the 3-point line. But you got to figure some things out. But I do think the better matchup for them would be the Nuggets if they get to face them, just because, obviously, they have Jokic, so that's not a great matchup again with size, but they just don't have the perimeter guys. Gary Harris is a good defender. Who else? Torrey Craig, I think. He might be hurt. I gotta check that. But the Nuggets have some guys, but obviously not at the same level of Paul George and Kawhi, who people could argue are the two best wing defenders in the league, and obviously they're on the same team. Oh, well, I guess they could throw Will Barton at him too, maybe Jeremy Grant for a while. Yeah, Torrey Craig's played a decent amount, but he doesn't play as many minutes as some of these other guys. But my main point with that was just the fact that the Nuggets, especially the players outside of Jokic, can be fairly inconsistent. Like, Jamal Murray has been up and down for most of his career, and that hasn't stopped this season. He's second leading scorer. He's getting paid a lot of money. It's only to average under 20 points. Not even average 5 assists. Jokic leads the team in assists, obviously. But he's shooting, 45% from the field, 34% from 3, excuse me. So, like I said, Jamal Murray, when he's your second best player, your ceiling's a little limited, in my personal opinion. And that's because I know Jamal, there'll be times where he disappears for stretches. Harris will disappear for stretches. Millsap, Will Barton. There's a lot of these guys outside of Jokic you can't really count on 100% in a series. So I think that factor, because you have Luka and Jokic's star power cancels out. But if I think KP could be the third best player in that series and relatively easily, and not I won't say easily, as if the Nuggets have scrubs, but I think he could definitely be the third best player in that series, and obviously that could end up mattering. I mean, basketball is one of the weird sports where, like, if you have 1 to 2 really good players, that's really all that matters. I mean, LeBron showed that when he took the post-Kyrie Cavs team to the finals with Love hurt. Like, if you have one really good player playing at a high level, that could be enough to just bring a bunch of relatively, I don't want to say not unknowns to the Cavs. At that point, we knew who the Cavs players were, but relatively marginal players, and elevate them to get them into the finals. So Luka's that kind of player where he's good enough to where he can dominate in a way that elevates the player of the guys around him, and obviously he gets some help from KP. I think they could potentially knock out the Nuggets in a first round series. Again, the Clippers, not so much. Even though, I don't know, they're not the Rockets either. Probably they don't play good enough defense in order to be able to keep up with the Rockets. Though, again, KP should dominate if they played them, but I don't think they play good enough defense in order to keep up with that. But yes, I think the Clippers is a tough one. But if they get the Nuggets, I think things could at least get interesting, to say the least. Like, it's not like the Nuggets are. The Clippers have people have a pretty good feeling about the Clippers being a surefire lock to at least make it to the second round. I don't think people feel that exact same way about the Nuggets. I mean, they probably will. I don't think anybody. If, like, you found out the Nuggets got upset in the first round by OKC or the Mavs, like, no one would be like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming. Like, no, they'd be like, yeah, okay. Maybe I could see it. Again, this is stemming from Jokic's the only guy that shows up. It's not really that impossible. The Clippers, on the other hand, if they beat the Clippers, that would be a wild upset. Regardless, I probably don't see that happening. But, yeah, so if KP keeps playing the way he's playing, the Mavs are going to, even if they don't win the first round series, they're going to be a tough out. They're not going to just get swept or lose in 5. Like, they'll give a team a hard 6, maybe even 7-game series between Luka and KP, and then maybe just you got other playoffs are random. You have guys will just step up out of nowhere This will finally be Tim Hardaway Jr.'s time to shine. He'll showcase his stuff. Who else? You have who else might do something weird? Maybe Seth Curry could do something crazy. Maybe Maxi Kleber will be on fire from three. Yeah, you never know with playoff series who's going to step up and who's ready and who's not ready for the moment. Obviously until you get there, but it'll be interesting to see. So the Mavs will be a team I'm keeping my eyes on to close out this season. See where they end up. See where they end up getting, and if they can pull off the upset, if you will, in that first round. So after this break, we're going to come back and transition to the NFL, and we talk about a lot about the quarterback movement, but there's a new twist in terms of a team that I didn't really think that was going to be looking for a quarterback that may be in the running for Tom Brady. I don't know. We're going to talk about that team and if it makes any sense right after this break, so stay tuned.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, Tom Brady, as has been well documented, well discussed, could potentially be on the move, though I think odds makers still have the Patriots as a favorite, just because, until Brady is playing in another uniform, no one will actually believe it. But it seems more real than ever at this point that he could potentially be moving on. And there's a new team thrown into the mix as a potential team that could be vying for his services. And it is none other than the San Francisco 49ers. And this one is kind of weird to me because this technically came up a while ago. Not a while, but like a week or so ago. And I was like, I'm not going to talk about it because there's no way that will happen. But now, not that it's 100% likely, but it at least seems mildly plausible. Just seems like there's at least some level of interest, and I think that kind of came from the combine. People, there's a lot of talks in terms of like people really think that this could be a thing that ends up happening. And from my perspective, it makes almost no sense for the Niners. If you're Brady, you want to go. You've been in New England your whole career. You want to go somewhere. You want to go somewhere with nice weather, good coach, good team. Obviously, they were just in the Super Bowl, so it's not like you have to go and build the whole thing from the ground up. They got a pretty good situation in place. So, from Tom Brady's perspective, I get it. But from a Niners perspective, I'm like, and I'm a guy that has actively talked about how I don't know if Jimmy G is the answer. In terms of, like, can you win a Super Bowl with him? Maybe. They got the Super Bowl with him, but I'm just like, you could tell they Kyle and coached throughout that playoffs. Like, he knew Jimmy G was his quarterback and was trying to do everything he could to make sure that Jimmy G did not lose him the game. So, that obviously would not happen with Tom Brady in the fold. But my thing is this. Tom Brady looked old last year. And I know some people say that, the offensive line was bad, which it was. The run game was bad, which it was. The receivers weren't good. All that stuff may very well be true. But the play from him himself was not that stellar. And obviously, Tom Brady has been a guy that has been known for, because it's not like he's had great receiving options throughout his entire career. I mean, obviously he had Gronk for a good period of time, and then he had the Randy Moss years. But outside of that, I mean, Wes Walker really wasn't anything before he got to the Patriots. Julian Edelman, he kind of helped turn him into a guy. In the earlier years, he had like Deion Branch and like some other guys, Kevin Falk out the backfield. Like, it's not like he's had elite weapons his entire career. So it's a little bit different from him, and obviously he got the reputation for. I mean, that's why people kind of expect quarterbacks to be able to elevate the guys around them, because Tom Brady has been able to do it to the tune of 6 Super Bowls. So there is that. But like I said, last year numbers not really that great. So Troy Wingo tweeted this out earlier today, which was an interesting point. Some of Brady's numbers last year: 54 QBR, which is his worst ever. Only for 24 touchdown passes, which is his worst since 2006. 6.6 yards per attempt, which is his worst since 2002. And then also a 61 completion percentage, which is his worst since 2013. So again, was the situation around Tom Brady great? No. But also, was Tom Brady great? Not really. So, if I'm the San Francisco 49ers and we have a guy who's going to turn 43 in August, is that a better... Because, I mean, again, he's 43. He's not going to be on the team for that long. You're looking at maybe a max 2-year window. So, is that a better option for me? And having to sign him to... I mean, it doesn't sound like he's going to want to come cheap. So, like, $65 million over 2 years, or $60 million over 2 years, whatever it turns out to be. Is that a better for me than just keeping Jimmy G at what he has and hoping he improves a little bit? Because like I said, in fairness to Tom Brady, at his age, only place he really has to go is down. Like, very few guys even play as well as Tom Brady's played into their 40s. So it's hard to imagine this is just going to keep up and keep up and keep up for forever. I mean, again, the guy's 43. He's not a young chicken anymore. He's getting up there. And I mean, not that 43 is that old in real life, but in terms of an athlete, I mean, he should have been retired by now. Especially in a league like the NFL, where so many guys are gone after the first couple of years. I mean, I don't want to say just the NFL, that's pro sports in general. Not a lot of guys are able to latch on for more than a couple of years. But it's always more impressive when football players have longer careers, just because of like the hits and the head injuries and just the regular injuries, the wear and tear on the body that it has, as opposed to some other sports. It's harder to sustain that longevity and obviously play at a high level. And Brady had been doing that up until this past year. I mean, he still threw for 4,000 yards, which, again, isn't. I mean, that's. I mean, in fairness, in the NFL, it's like fairly standard. But there's definitely not a bad year when you throw for 4,000 yards to a degree. But I mean, if you look at, we talked about a lot of his stats already, but there was one I was looking for in particular. I mean, if you care about QB rating, I mean, this is the worst QB rating he's had since 2013, when he was at the young old age of 36. So there is that. So yeah, this is one of his worst years in a few years. So it's hard to say for certain that a change of scene is going to fix that. And again, at the end of the day, the guy's 43, and they just made it to a Super Bowl with Jimmy G. Like, why? Like, getting to a Super Bowl is hard, and getting to a Super Bowl is harder when you have a guy. And I mean, obviously Kyle Shanahan's a great play caller, so it's not going to be hard for him to get adjusted. And he did wonders for Matt Ryan, done wonders for Jimmy G. So he's usually been able to been the best of his quarterbacks. That was good for, I think he was there for some of the Kirk Cousins years in Washington. But also, generally speaking, he has younger to prime level quarterbacks. He's never had a quarterback of this age that he's had to lead the offense for. So that would be a different challenge for him as well. And then also just the thought of, like, now you got to find a trade partner for Jimmy D. I mean, do you trade him back to the Patriots? If they traded him back to the Patriots, that'd be top 5 wildest sports stories of the year. Easy. Maybe even bigger than just this year. But it'd be solidified, stamped top 5 wildest stories of the year. And Jimmy G, after getting traded to the 49ers because Belichick wanted him to be the new quarterback, and Kraft and Brady were like, nah, we're not having that. For him to get traded back to the Patriots when Tom Brady leaves in free agency would be kind of absurd. So for that, I'm interested in, but honestly, I don't think it's that plausible. Because again, Jimmy G has what? Let me look up to see what Jimmy G's contract looks like. I know it's not that cheap. No, so I think you got a few more years on it. See, he's not a free agent to 2023. Jeez, did not know that. So yeah, he's currently 28. He's under contract for the next 3 seasons at about 27 a year over those years. So again, whoever's ever trading for him is in this for the long haul with Jimmy G, obviously. But again, I don't know exactly. I don't think you can just you have to trade him to a team with a lot of cap space if you're just going to trade him for nothing. If you're just trading for draft picks, I don't know if that's how the Patriots want to use all their cap space, just because they do need to go out and sign some receivers. And probably a tight end. And maybe get some O-line help. Maybe get some pass rush help. Like they need some things, and I don't think spending that much... trading, so now you're giving up draft picks that could be guys to fill some of these roles. And then now you can't spend whatever money that Jimmy G costs because now it's eating into your cap. So... it would just be it's just a weird situation. And also, Jimmy G was, again, for a guy that's not really a big Jimmy G believer, he was better than Brady last year, easily, by, many, many margins. Many, many margins. Had less yards, but threw for more touchdowns, had a better passer rating. I imagine had a better QBR. What was his QBR? It was a very solid 60, which is more than Brady. More yards per attempt. I would assume probably more yards per game. Again, made to the Super Bowl, where Brady lost in the first round to the Titans and Ryan Tannehill at home. So, there is that. But yeah, it's just I just don't... From a 49ers perspective, I just don't get it. Again, it'd be a cool, splashy thing. Obviously, when Tom Brady calls, you're gonna answer the phone. But for what they have on their team, the window that they have right now, because then if you don't win one either this year, because it means no guarantee Brady's 100% going to want to come back after the season. He just wants to come back for one more season at the very least. There's no guarantee that he's going to come back for a year where he's turning 45. Oh no, well, I guess if he's turning 43 this year, then he'll be 44 next year. There's no guarantee he'll come back. So then if you get this 1 year, you don't win a Super Bowl, then you're got to start all over again with a team that's ready to win now. So that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And again, you're gonna have to pay big money to a guy that's 14 years older than your current quarterback. So just what? I just don't. I'm not saying it can't happen, because stranger things have happened. But from a 49ers perspective, I don't understand this one bit. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. Why would you do this? Why would you give up something that you know is at the very least good enough to get you to a Super Bowl, which is, I mean, at the end of the day, that's all you can hope for. Is you get a ticket to the dance in terms of playoffs, and from there, anything can happen. And that's what happened. Anything happened, and they made it to the Super Bowl. Obviously, they were the 1 seed, so it's not that surprising, but still, they made it to the Super Bowl. Had a 10-point lead until Mahomes turned into Mahomes, and then obviously there's not much you can do from there. But, excuse me, as much as we knock on Jimmy G for missing some of those passes late in that game, there's no guarantee Tom Brady hits those passes with the way he played last season. And again, not getting any younger, so there's no guarantee that he's going to continue to hit those passes. So, it's just one of those weird things that I don't understand this from a 49ers perspective. It's very odd, very weird story that this is actually a real possibility, that a team that literally has a quote-unquote franchise quarterback would just give him up for a year or two of Tom Brady. And it's not prime elite level Tom Brady. This is older Tom Brady, who may still very well be good, but again, he's going to be 43 this season. It would be 100% unprecedented. So we'll see if it happens. I would be shocked. There's very few things that would shock me in terms of the quarterback movement. This would literally shock me if they traded Jimmy G, probably the Patriots, but they traded Jimmy G somewhere and then signed Tom Brady. That would be absurd. I'd be so confused and so shocked. But hey, we'll see if it happens. So, coming up next, we're going to go from on the field to off the field and talk about some of the guys that could be talking about Jimmy G and Tom Brady next year as they play, and how they could be doing it after getting a very, very, very large sum of money. Obviously, talk about Tony Romo's deal, but this deal with this person could very well eclipse that. So we'll talk about who that is, where he may end up working, and who he could very well be working with right after this break. So stay tuned.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
So, Peyton Manning, the man who could very well be the new face of Monday Night Football. I mean, as we talked about last week, Tony Romo getting his big deal to stay at CBS, and it seems like ESPN is willing to give an even bigger sum of money to Peyton Manning to get him to join the broadcast. Obviously, since Gruden left, they've been trying to find a suitable replacement. Hasn't really worked out. Got a lot of guys that aren't really big Booger fans. In terms of, obviously, Booger McFarland. Joe Tessitore's fine in my book, even though he had that weird call after the Eagles-Giants overtime win. We said to eat that W, Philly. I was like, I don't know why that was the first thing that came to your head. Because I don't know what association we have with Jameis, and no one other than Jameis has ever said that they wanted to eat a W. So that kind of struck me as weird. But other than that, he's a good play-by-play guy. Tried the Jason Witten experiment last year. Nope, that wasn't it. Tried the having Booger move around on that little weird trolley thing that people hated. Mainly because it's just like weird that to have a guy outside of the booth trying to talk with the guys, and also you were just like in the way of fans, so they were less than thrilled. So they did away with that, but they seem to think they have the answer to their problems with Monday Night Football, and that would be to bring in Peyton Manning. Obviously, he's been doing work with ESPN already, mainly ESPN Plus with the Peyton's Places thing. So it's not like he's that he wouldn't be like that new to the network. Obviously, he's done commercials and stuff with them in the past, but according to FrontOfficeSports.com, it is reported that ESPN is ready to offer Peyton $18 to $20 million to serve as an analyst on Monday Night Football. This obviously comes less than a week after Tony Romo had a deal that kept that in order to keep him at CBS for about $18 million a year. And also, I guess apparently, which makes sense now why he got that much money, is it seems like ESPN was trying to pry him away from CBS to very well do this Monday Night Football with them, and obviously CBS had to give Romo the bag in order to get him to stay, and they were able to do that. So now they're moving their attention over to Peyton Manning, and it could very well work. I mean, obviously we'll see, but this development also comes at a time when some believe ABC and ESPN are poised to make the NFL a massive offer that would, among other things, move Monday Night Football to ABC and return ABC to the Super Bowl rotation, which obviously would be big for them to be a part of the to be able to get that game, because obviously the Super Bowl is the biggest TV event of and every year it gets the most viewers. So any network would be happy to have it. Apparently, ESPN has been trying to hire Manning for a few years now since he retired. So this is something that they've also been working towards. And also, the thing with that is they're trying to pry Al Michaels away from NBC in order to join Peyton Manning on the sidelines. Or I guess, well, not on the sidelines, in the booth. But you get the point. They're trying to get him to join Peyton in the booth, which would be an interesting team, to say the least, and also mainly just because he's currently at NBC, so that wouldn't be an easy thing to do to get him away. But supposedly they had this same idea of bringing Michaels along with Tony Romo if they were able to get him, and they think the Michael Peyton pairing would work just as well as the Romo and Peyton pairing. So I mean, obviously we'll see how that goes. Obviously, Al Michaels is arguably one of the best NFL play-by-play guys ever, and he's obviously him and Collinsworth. Though I mean, obviously, not everybody can love them, but they're a very good team together. So it'd be interesting to see how the chemistry would work between him and Peyton. Though I do believe that having Peyton alongside a more experienced play-by-play guy, no offense to Joe Tessitore, but having him alongside a more experienced play-by-play guy does make a whole lot of sense, in my opinion, just because he's obviously never done anything like this. I mean, we all know Peyton's a smart guy, and I think some of that will cause great expectations of what he can and can't, and what he should, what people think he will be able to do in the booth, and obviously some of that is because of how well Tony Romo has transitioned from playing into the booth. And obviously Peyton has a good personality. He's been on SNL. He's been in commercials, so you would think being on TV all the time wouldn't be an issue for him, but obviously you never know until you're put in that position. And obviously they're willing to gamble big, because obviously they're going to give him a lot of money before they really know if he's good at the job or not. At least Romo had to work for a couple years before he got that kind of money from, I guess, well, it could have been ESPN, but before from CBS. So that's interesting. But yeah, no, so we'll have to see how that goes. But I mean, it's just a weird, the Al Michaels part of it is the weird part. Just because, again, he's under contract with NBC still. I don't understand exactly how that would work out. Do they have to? Because I'm assuming because it's not like you can trade. Because I know not in theory, but technically in sports you can trade for like executives or coaches or whatever. You just have to give up like a lot of picks and like what have you. But there's nothing to trade for networks. That means you basically have to buy them out, which again, ESPN has the money to do, so that's not that surprising. But if I'm NBC, I don't know why. I don't care how much money they give you. I don't know why you would let him go and break up your all-star team. Because now you got to find a new play-by-play. I mean, apparently I thought I read on Twitter or in an article that they said Mike Tirico will probably step in, which again would make a lot of sense. He's calling games now, I think, for the XFL, if I'm not mistaken. I might have just made that up, but I mean, I know he calls some college football stuff. He's called games in the past, so this wouldn't be. He's called Monday Night Football games in the past. So again, this wouldn't be anything new for him. But honestly, if I'm NBC, I don't know if I would just be willing to let my star player just leave like that. But obviously, I mean, if another company comes in with more money, there's not really a whole lot you can do from their perspective. But I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting little team. Also, the bet that ESPN is willing to take is also pretty interesting, just because, again, they're paying Peyton for what they think he could do. We have no idea Peyton Manning is a good color analyst for TV broadcast. We don't know. We think he should be good. I think he will be good. I mean, he's a very smart guy, one of the smartest guys ever in the league. Basically, ran his own offensive line of scrimmage, so he knows what he understands football at a level that most people just will never be able to, and even people that played in the league aren't able to understand. So that part of it, from that aspect, he should be able to be a good analyst. But at the same time, like a lot of those guys that are that smart can't really break things down to a basic level, just because they understand at such a high level that it's hard for them to understand why you wouldn't get it. That's why a lot of the best players don't make good coaches, because they just think, hey, if I work this hard, or if I was able to do this or do that, then everybody should be able to do this and do that, and that's literally just not possible. So that's why some of the marginal or lower tier players make good coaches, just because they are forced to view the game differently than an elite player that's just able to dominate, and basically has been able to dominate since he was like a kid. As well, these guys have to work and view the game differently, and kind of attack the game in a different way in order to be successful in the league. So it'll be interesting to see if Peyton is good at that aspect of the job, because obviously that'll determine the success or failure of this. Though, I mean, obviously the checks will still clear, so there is that. But yeah, that's just the biggest thing. It's just how good is he at this job? Because we won't know until he actually does it. But I mean, like I said, they're willing to pay $18 to $20 million to find out if he's good or not. So I mean, I'm assuming they ran through some tests or auditions or whatever. So we'll see. And also, I think as a backup plan, I believe they've been in talks with Phillip Rivers, though he hasn't officially retired yet. If he does retire, obviously he could be a guy that could step in and take over the role. Obviously, he's a pretty interesting personality, so that would be a weird one to see in the booth. But I mean, it could very well be entertaining. Obviously, sometimes weird combinations make for good television. So we would see how that one would go. But it seems at least good for ESPN for having a backup plan, because you don't want to just put all your eggs in the Peyton Manning basket, and obviously that things fall through, and then now you're just out of luck. That would not be ideal at all. So at least it seems like ESPN has a plan, and then has a plan for that plan in case that plan does not go through. So we will see if that goes through or if it doesn't. But at the end of the day, it seems that Peyton Manning is going to get paid if he wants to get paid. And I do think, even for a guy like Peyton Manning who's made a lot of money, it'd be hard to turn down $20 million a year to talk about football, when that's what it seems like what you enjoy doing anyway. So we'll see if he will be the head of that Monday Night Football broadcast very, very soon. But yeah, so after this break, we're gonna transition, switch gears a little bit, and head down to the college ranks for college basketball. As if you don't know, the regular season is starting to wind down. It's March, obviously, so that means March Madness is very well around the corner. conference tournaments will be starting up, and I feel as if this, not even just this. I mean, we kind of talked about this already, but this tournament's going to be a weird one. And I'm not even talking about just the NCAA. This conference tournaments are going to be weird too. And we'll talk about all of what I mean and some of the teams that have kind of shown their true colors over the last couple weeks and could very well be on upset alert early on in their conference tournaments and in the NCAA tournaments. We'll talk about all that stuff right after this break, so stay tuned.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So if you've been paying attention to college basketball this year, you know that this year has been like really strange in terms of like upsets and good teams. Like there's not like outside of like Kansas, really there hasn't really been a real dominant team. I mean, and obviously you can tell that by the fact that Dayton is number 3 overall, I believe, at the moment. So I don't think many people had that before the season started. So that just kind of tells you where college basketball is at right now in terms of, like, it's just all over the place. I mean, you've seen so many teams, highly ranked, top 5, top 10, lose to unranked teams just basically at almost every weekend. It's kind of nuts when you think about it. But because of that, that has me thinking, again, looking forward a little bit to the conference championships and conference tournaments, I have to say, and the NCAA tournament. It's gonna be, I mean, I would like, this is how funny the year has been. It would make too much sense for it to be upset heavy, and I think all of a sudden now, like, imagine it's just like mainly chalk, like it's just like a lot of the top teams are actually beating these lower teams now that the games obviously mean a lot more. Wouldn't that be kind of funny? But I mean, obviously, I don't think that's what's going to happen. But that would be the ultimate like joke or irony. Would be that after all these upsets throughout the regular season, you get to the conference tournament, get to the NCAA tournament. Now all of a sudden, all these higher seeds and all these better teams are deciding like, hey, you know what? We're better than these guys. We shouldn't be losing to these teams. I mean, maybe it'd just be funny to me, but I don't see it happening. But it would just be wild if it did happen. But so more towards what I think is going to happen is wild amount of upsets. I mean, I'm talking every conference and tournament. I mean, you look at teams that people thought were good. I mean, I would never have gone out on a limb and said this, but people thought like teams like a Penn State could potentially be a Final Four team. And granted, they had one of their best players hurt for a few games, and I think he's back now, so that obviously helps them. But they have struggled over the last couple weeks. I'm trying to, if I can pull up their schedule real quick for you guys, just you kind of have a better understanding of what Penn State has done. I mean, so just on Tuesday, lost to Michigan State. Again, Michigan State, not a bad team, ranked higher than them, so not completely surprising. But lost to Michigan State. Before that, lost to Iowa. Beat Rutgers, barely. Beat Rutgers. Lost to Indiana, lost to Illinois, beat Northwestern, beat Purdue, beat Minnesota, beat Michigan. Okay, so After that Northwestern game, they lost 1, 2, 3. Should have lost to Rutgers, but held on there. And then just lost to Michigan State, and then they play Northwestern to close it out on Saturday. And this was a team that a few weeks ago I think was in the top 10. And I'm trying to see where I can figure. Oh well, I guess they won't. Yeah, no, they were 9 at the time they lost to Illinois and Indiana in back-to-back weeks. I mean back-to-back games. Excuse me, not weeks. Back-to-back games. Again, a team that many people thought could potentially make a Cinderella type run is now currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th in the pack in the Big Ten, which I mean again, Big Ten could very well, maybe not Minnesota. So they could have like 10 to 11 teams make the tournament. So that's not a knock, but their best team, Maryland, again another team is struggling. They just lost to Rutgers by double digits on Tuesday. Again, Rutgers isn't as bad as it used to be, but still, shouldn't be losing them. Lost to Michigan State, barely beat Minnesota, lost to Ohio State. So yeah, Maryland's is kind of whatever, and they're another team that's kind of started to show their true colors a little bit, you could say. Who else? Who else has had some interesting losses? I know it was at San Diego State. I know they lost, but I think they only have the one loss still, which good for them. They haven't lost another game since, but they still had that weird loss to UNLV at home. It was close, but they still lost, so that was weird. That shouldn't have happened, but it did. Who else? Seton Hall lost to Nova on I'm pretty sure it was Wednesday. Yeah. It's just another one of those. Then let me see how did Miles Powell play in this game? 5 for 18. That'll do it. If Miles Powell isn't playing National Player of the Year caliber, Seton Hall is bound to potentially lose any game. So again, they're a team that people thought could make a run. Now it's kind of I don't really know if I'm gonna put all my eggs in that basket. Who else? I mean, yeah, Kentucky lost to Tennessee the other night. Iowa lost to Purdue. I know Duke's had some weird losses over the past couple of weeks. They play North Carolina coming up on Saturday. See if North Carolina can actually hit some free throws in that game and get the dub. But they lost to Wake Forest in double overtime. They lost to Virginia, who's not even that good this year. Well, compared to last year. I mean, it's still 21-7, so not bad, but they're not national championship caliber. And definitely, I know Wake Forest isn't. Wake Forest is, 12-15. But, I mean, they lost to, Clemson, too. Lost to NC State recently. Duke is weird, but then they beat Florida State. It's a weird thing. They, again, should have lost to North Carolina. So, yeah, you got teams there's so many teams that you're I don't Creighton just lost to St. John's by 20 on Sunday. This year is so all over the place. That is who, if you're not, Villanova lost to Providence the other, over the weekend. Baylor lost again over the weekend, this time to TCU, over the past weekend, excuse me. But then, Kentucky beat, so Kentucky loses to Tennessee, but can beat Auburn. That's what I'm saying, it's just, it's weird. This year's just been so weird that, again, I just feel the conference tournaments and the NCAA tournaments could just be upset riddled. And I think some of these teams are just gonna some of these higher level programs, so say a Duke or Kentucky or a Kansas or a Baylor or a Dayton or I mean not that Dayton's a higher level, but it's they're good this year, or Gonzaga, somebody like that, or Villanova. I'm just naming teams off the top of my head, are going to luck out due to the fact that they're just going to get a good draw, and somebody that's potentially better than them will have lost by the time they play them. I can see that happen. I could see a couple big time schools kind of sneaking. I could see a Seton Hall if Miles Powell plays well sneaking into the Elite Eight because of the fact that they got lucky and some of the teams in their bracket got upset because, again, would not be shocking to anybody based on the way the season's played out. But yeah, so you can see something like that, or like a Oregon getting hot and just making another run at the Elite Eight. It's just like this year's like so weird. That you just generally NCAA tournament time, you don't really know for certain what's going to happen, but you could at least have a pretty good feel like, oh, I think this team's going to be good, or I think that team's going to be good, or that team's going to be good. This year, you're just on a hope and a prayer with everybody. Like, literally just about everybody, except for maybe like Kansas. You're just like, and again, it depends on how much faith you have in Gonzaga or Dayton. But everybody else, you're just like kind of hoping, like, I hope this team plays well this game. That's really it, because if they don't, then literally every team could lose. And on any given day, obviously. I mean, that's not that uncommon, but this year specifically, it just seems like you catch a certain team on the right day, you're going to go down. If you're a quote unquote an elite level program, and that's just what's been happening this year, and that's what I'm saying. That I just feel like it's bound to continue to happen. Starting when conference tournaments start up, you're going to see some teams go out earlier than they should, just because that's just the nature of the way the season's gone. Like, teams are going to get upset in the first, second round. You're going to see teams lose in round of 32 in the NCAA tournament when they shouldn't. You're going to see teams lose in the round of 16 in the Sweet 16 when they probably shouldn't. Like, it's just like, that's just what's going to happen. So I hope you have that in mind when you get ready to fill out your brackets in the next week or so. Like, I just hope you have that in mind that, look, this year's been very upset heavy. There could potentially be like a 10 seed that makes the Final Four. Like, it's going to be nutty. It's absolutely nutty. So plan accordingly for that, because if you don't, your bracket will suffer the consequences of you not being properly prepared for all these upsets. But I'm just saying, this year has been a weird one in college basketball. There's no really dominant team. There's no really dominant players. There's so many upsets. No one really. I mean, people are just gonna. I mean, that's the weird thing about the tournament, is that a lot of people usually like the upsets, but this year is gonna be. I think it's just gonna be over a weird combination. Based, again, assuming the tournament plays out like the regular season. Now, again, it would just be the ultimate irony for now just to go chalk in the tournament. But again, neither end of that spectrum would surprise me one bit. But yeah, it would just based on the way the season's gone, just about anybody can get hot and go on this nice little 6-game run, and any team could easily be out in the first or second round. And neither one of them would shock me. Neither one. Based on how a lot of these teams would play this season, them losing, them getting upset early, or them going on a deep deep tournament run. Neither one would shock me. But I guess we'll at least be able to see teams that kind of try to distance themselves in their respective conference tournaments. But again, I think there'll be upsets in that one too. You're going to see teams, whether it's the Big Ten or mainly the Big Ten, just because that's the teams with more competitiveness. But even outside the Big Ten, like Big East, AAC, ACC, SEC, out west, like there's going to be teams that randomly get upset early on in the tournaments. I think, like, again, it'd be pretty funny if all of a sudden it just went chalk. But you're going to see teams get upset, and you're just like, how did this team lose to this team? Like, how? And I'm just going to be like, because that's just what happened this year. It's really no other explanation other than that. That's just like how the season was going. And hey, it should provide for an interesting tournament, but it's just weird how the season's gone in college basketball. So again, I hope you plan accordingly for these upsets, because they're coming. They are coming. So I hope you are ready for them. But yeah, after this last break, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about, obviously, spring training is underway. Teams are getting back in the swing of things. And with that, that means there are a lot of teams that are very positive on their outlook for the season. So stemming off that, I'm going to come back and rank, not necessarily in order, but rank some of my top 5 guys that I think could go from unknown to breakout star this upcoming season. So we'll talk about those guys right after this break. So stay tuned.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, the first guy, or I honestly could say guys, that I want to talk about is two players from the Chicago White Sox, which, I mean, it's kind of wild to think about just because the White Sox haven't been that relevant in a few years, but they have some guys in their pipeline, I guess, now they're not really in their pipeline anymore, they're up in the bigs, that have star potential, and they've obviously traded for them, acquired them over the last few years during their quote-unquote rebuild. And the first guy would be Eloy Jimenez, who was up in the big leagues last year. Hold on, give me a second, I was looking up some other stuff. But yeah, he was up in the bigs last year. Was very good. Played 122 games. Obviously missed some time due to injury, but came up last year, slugged over 500. Had 31 home runs. Finished fourth in Rookie of the Year. In AL Rookie of the Year race. I mean, he had a 117 OPS, was just under the threshold for qualifying for for one of the OPS leaders. And he's only 23 years old, 23, 24 years old. I mean, he was lauded as a top 5 prospect. He's a guy that many people think could very well hit 50 home runs at some point in his career. I mean, for all we know, it could be this season. But he's a guy that, like I said, people think he could be one of the best power hitters in the league. He had a 8.7, the 117 OPS plus, excuse me. But he had an 870 OPS in the second half of the year. Hit 340, had a slash of 340, 383, and 710 with 9 home runs in September. And like I said, he's a guy that many people think could very well turn into one of the best power hitters, especially at such a young age. He could be not that Pete Alonso was the first guy to come along, but he's a guy that could hit. I guess he won't be a rookie this upcoming season, but he's a guy that could hit 50 home runs at a young age. And Aaron Judge, a guy who hit 50 home runs at a young age. And honestly, the biggest thing with him, according to this from MLB.com, but one of the best things with him is that he hits the ball hard a lot, which is obviously an important aspect of things. Few hitters made hard contact on more of their batted balls than Jimenez, especially in the second half, where he hit 51.1% of his balls where that was his hard hit rate. And over the final month, nobody hit more barrels. Batted balls with optimal combination of exit velocity and launch angle take that demonstrated ability to crush baseballs and add a year of experience, which could help improve a 134 to 30 strikeout to walk ratio. You have a young hitter that could be ready to emerge as a star at the plate. And obviously, he's in the AL. And the White Sox have added some pieces to their lineup, so it's not going to just be on him. But they have, like they said, they have good guys around him. But obviously, the year under his belt, and obviously he's got the power. And like I said, he's in the AL, so even if the fielding's not all there yet in the outfield, he could be like a DH or whatever, split time. But yeah, it's just one of those things where he could very well be a guy that you didn't really know much about before the season that could be a leading All-Star voter in the home run race, that kind of guy. And also to go along with that is his teammate Luis Robert, who's another outfielder for the White Sox, who just so happened to absolutely dominate minor league ball last year. I'm trying to see if I can find his stats. Yeah, so in 2019, between 3 teams, from high A to double A to triple A, he hit. Where is it? He batted .328, a .376 on base percentage, a .624 slugging, a 1.001 OPS. He had He hit 32 combined home runs, including 16 at the AAA level. He had almost 100 RBIs, stole 36 bases, only had 28 walks, still 130 strikeouts. So you need to cut that down a tad bit. But at 31 doubles, 11 triples, he's a guy that they people think, including even that organization, people think that he could very well be the best prospect that they've had come along, including Moncada, including Jimenez, including Nick Madrigal, including who's the pitcher? Kopech, who's coming off Tommy John. They've had a lot of guys that they've been high on. I think even another guy in their system, Andrew Vaughn, I believe his name is. He's a first baseman, I believe. But he's supposed to be the guy that's the best out of all these guys, and potentially he could be. Obviously, we don't know that yet. And he's still only he's gonna be. He was 21 last year. He's gonna be 22. He turned 22 last August. So he's going to turn 23 during the season, obviously. But yeah, this is the guy that they think has all the tools. Plus, he's a pretty good fielder from what it seems. And obviously, the 30-plus stolen bases, that means he's pretty fast on the base pass. So this is the guy that they think could be the total package, the complete and total package for the White Sox. And obviously, if he's as good as advertised, you add him in with, like I said, Jimenez, Moncada, Tim Anderson. They added in Grandal. They brought up Brady back. They have a pretty solid line, especially for a young team. Most teams don't have this many good young hitters to mix in with veterans, and they potentially could have that if Robert turns out to be what they think he could be. So that's another guy to keep your eyes on. So the White Sox are a team that you might just want to keep your eyes on in general, just to see how their young guys play and how quickly they can get acclimated to the major league level. But another guy that I think people think could end up taking that leap again is Vlad Jr. Obviously, he was on the scene last year, but was in and out of the lineup, missing time with injuries. Obviously, was put on quite the show in the home run derby, which people were mad that he was in. But again, much like the All-Star game, to a degree, it's just especially the home run derby specifically, it's just all about just who the fans want to see hit home runs. And Vlad Jr. is a guy that people wanted to see hit home runs, not just because of his dad, just because of some of the power that he's displayed. So it only made sense that he was a part of it. And obviously, like I said, he had a pretty decent rookie year. Hit 270, 15 home runs, 69 RBIs. Only played in 123 games though. So yeah, like I said, he missed 39 games, I think, technically. So I think that's going to be the thing with him, to try to see if he can stay healthy more. But yeah, if he can, he has all the tools to again be another 30-40 home run guy, hit for good power. Let me see. I think he just needs to. Even his strikeouts to walks aren't nearly as bad. He had 91 strikeouts to 46 walks last year. So obviously you want that a little bit better. But for a rookie, that's actually not that bad, in all honesty. Especially for a guy with as big of a swing as he has. So yeah, he's a guy that if he can put it together, That'd be cool. Obviously, another guy. I'm not gonna talk about him, but I think what's his name, Kevin Biggio on the Blue Jays. I think he's another guy that they hope second baseman. They hope could him and Vlad Jr. could be mainstays in that lineup for years and years and years to come. So that'd be interesting. It's hard to put this guy on the list, but I am just because I've also done a bunch of AL guys, but so actually no, I was gonna talk about what's his name? I was gonna talk about Glaber, but again, he's kind of, he's been around for a couple years, so, and obviously people know what he's capable of at this point. Though obviously he can clearly get better, but I was gonna do Glaber, but I'll pass just because I want to give some other guys a shout out. And obviously, like I said, people know about Glaber already. Though I think he's another guy that could take that leap, and he may have to with Stanton missing time. Judge is going to miss some time. But yeah, it'd be crazy for a shortstop to improve on a season where he hit 280 and almost 40 home runs with 90 RBIs. But hey, Glaber could very well do it, so that wouldn't shock me. But another guy I want to touch on just because he's definitely not going to be that heralded, but from the Royals, Adalberto Mondesi, who's a shortstop, he led the majors in triples with 10 and stole 43 bases last year. Which, again, great numbers for a full season. Except that's the thing, he didn't play a full season, he only played 102 games. So if you extrapolate that out over 162 games, so let me just do some quick math for you. Okay, so 43 stolen bases and 102. That's that. Times that by 162. So if you kept up that same pace for a full season, he's talking about almost 70 stolen bases. And the same thing with the triples. You put that out over 100. You put that out over 162. 10 divided by 102. 162. Now we're talking about like 16, maybe even 17 triples, which would be an absurd amount. Again, he led the majors last year, while only playing 102 games. But yeah, he's a guy that, again, the Royals are probably going to be sorry next year. And obviously not the greatest hitter yet, only hit 260, only 9 home runs, 60 RBIs, which isn't that bad. But at speed is something crazy. And he's been in the league for a couple of years. But again, he's just a guy that's kind of under the radar that people don't really know that much about, mainly because the Royals are sorry nowadays. But he's just a guy that he could be the new stolen base king in the league. So that's somebody that I'm at least going to want to keep my eye on. And then last but not least, just because you could literally do this for every team. But my fifth guy, who again, it doesn't mean like this isn't like necessarily a top 5. It's just like 5 guys that I want to keep an eye on. Is I don't know. It's kind of tough between if I want to do. Well, because take that back. No, I guess I could technically do 2 more, but I'm only going to do 1. Cause I've spent a lot of time on Robert, but him and Jimenez could be the same. So it's like, who I do want to do? Do I want to do Victor Robles or do I want to do Tatis Jr.? Because Tatis Jr., if he just is healthy and plays a little bit better defense, could be the best player in the league. But because people mainly know about him, I'm going to go a little bit more Victor Robles just because, and actually I didn't do any pitchers, which is kind of sad. Obviously there's guys on the Braves, Soroka, Fried, who people think it could be good. Not people think it could very well be good. Mitch Keller for the Pirates. There's guys, but I'll do Robles just because he's the guy that's kind of been overshadowed in that outfield with the Nationals, just because obviously Juan Soto was so great in the playoffs and he was just so good overall last season. But he's already great as a defensive center field, which is why he got so much playing time this last year. That's obviously why they were willing to move on from Bryce, because they needed to get his glove out there somewhere on the field. But if he just improves his hitting a little bit, and obviously he didn't hit that good in the playoffs, but last year he hit in what was technically his 3rd season in which he's played games, but this is his 1st season he got a majority of the starts. We got a majority of games played. He hit 255, 17 home runs, 65 RBIs, 28 stolen bases, which is not bad at all. And then obviously he had, and then in the outfield, I mean, he had 12 outfield assists, 6 errors, which isn't that great. But again, he's still a young guy. .982 fielding percentage. Not bad. And that was in center. In right, he didn't have any errors. Though he also didn't have any outfield assists. So, but yeah, he's a center fielder, so that's where he's going to spend most of his time. But yeah, I mean, he's still a very good defender at a pretty young age. He's only, 22? Well, it's soon to be 23, but he's only 22 right now. Still has potential as a batter. So, he's a guy that I would be interested to see just kind of how he comes off. I mean, Soto, too, but just how they come off of that World Series. Just if they have more confidence, they have more belief in themselves, belief in their team, or if they kind of just are, or if they're just not ready to handle that sort of what comes with being the hunted, I should say, not the hunter, because obviously they got off such a bad start last season. And obviously they play in the wildcard game that they weren't really expected to be much, but obviously being on the team that just won the World Series, that brings added pressure to you. It'll be interesting to see how those young guys will be able to handle that. But I think Robles would be an interesting one to. I mean, Soto too, but since obviously everybody knows about Soto, couldn't pick him. But yeah, Robles just because he's kind of the forgotten man, forgotten young guy in that outfield, just because Soto gets all the praise and deservedly so. I mean, he was sensational, and then especially in the postseason, he was great. And even just if you classify just the World Series, I mean, he was good. I mean, not good, great. But yeah, Robles is I think was just as high, if not higher, of a potentially prospect when he was going to be brought up. So he's not a nobody, but hey, we will see what happens with all those guys. Like I said, I could have added 15 more guys onto this list, but these are just 5 that I had off the top, not off the top of my head, but just 5 I had wanted to talk about. But like I said, there were many, many more that I could have put on this list. But hey, that'll do it here for me today on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. I want to thank you guys, as always, for listening, especially through my weird-sounding voice today. Hopefully I'll be better for you guys for the next episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top of whenever we drop our latest stuff. If you could, please also give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. Be very appreciated. It's very helpful. Like I said, it allows us to see what you guys like, what you guys don't like, ways you can improve, all that fun stuff. And lastly, if you're on social media, we are on social media. So you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you are, we are. We can talk, we can chat, we can discuss, we can debate. You can tell me some of the guys that you're looking forward to seeing in the upcoming MLB season. You can tell me why LeBron's going to win the MVP. You can tell me why Brady on the Niners makes 100% sense. All that stuff I'm really willing and ready to discuss and debate with all of you guys. So please feel free to reach out to us there. But I have been Chris Blades. This has been my time. Again, I want to thank you for listening. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.